The voice said, "We've switched bodies." I was in my bedroom getting dressed to go out for the night with my friends. This was back in high school. I was going to be going out to this party with my best friend Jasmine and her older brother Derek, who we had a massive crush on. I remember putting on this baby blue dress that I had picked out for weeks in anticipation of this night. I was so excited. I think I may have even done my makeup a little bit better than normal, because I wanted to look nice for Derek. After I got dressed, I went downstairs to see if my mom was ready to drive us to the party. She was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking wine, and watching Judge Judy, which was her favorite show. My dad wasn't there. He was off working his overnight security job. He hated having to work nights and weekends just so that he could put food on the table for us. So I felt bad making him miss out on seeing me all dressed up for my first real date. But I told my mom about the dress I was wearing, and she came into my room to see it. Said, "Oh wow, honey, that color looks amazing on you. You look so pretty." And then she smiled. Your father would love to see you wearing that, but he'll just have to wait until Monday when he's off work again." It was rare for my mom to mention my dad like this. Not in a negative way or even in a neutral way. Just bringing him up out of nowhere. It was strange. I was confused as to why she would do that. But I brushed it off and went back upstairs to get my shoes on. When Jasmine and Derek arrived, we piled into my mom's car and headed to the party. We were driving through these quiet suburban streets. The houses were far apart from one another, so we weren't really risking much by driving around the neighborhood blasting music and screaming along to it. That's what we did. We sang, and we laughed, and we made fun of passing cars. And by the time we pulled into the driveway of this house where the party was being held, we were in such high spirits. At the party, Derek and I danced and drank. I don't remember what kind of alcohol they had there, but it tasted like pineapple upside-down cake and vanilla extract. It was sweet, and I loved it. At some point during the party, I stopped drinking and started feeling sick. I wandered off to the bathroom to puke. And as I was standing over the toilet splashing water on my face, I looked up at the girl staring back at me from the mirror. I didn't recognize her. Mose. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were huge and black and soulless. Her lips were thin and drawn in, and her mouth was a perfect O. I reached out to touch my face, and that's when I felt it. My fingers brushed against something hard and angular. They were sharp and pointy like cheekbones, jawbones like a skull. I stumbled backwards out of the bathroom and bumped straight into someone. "Sorry," I mumbled, still in shock from what I had seen in the mirror. "No worries," said a familiar voice. "You okay? You kind of looked like you were going to throw up again." It was Jasmine. She was studying me closely. "Are you sure you're all right?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just need some air." I pushed past her and stepped outside to try to clear my head. But as soon as I breathed in the fresh air, I panicked. I didn't want to breathe it in. It smelled like stale waste and rotting flesh. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. It sounded like a drum solo in the middle of a horror movie. My vision started to blur at the edges. I pressed my palms against my eyes, willing them to stop shaking. What was happening to me? Then I heard a voice in my head. It said, "We've switched bodies." As soon as the voice said that, everything shifted inside of me. It was like a light switch had been flipped. I could see clearly again, but now I knew I was in trouble. You see, I grew up hearing voices in my head. When I was younger, my mom would tell me that I was talking to myself. And when people pointed that out to her, she would say, "Oh, I think my daughter has a vivid imagination." But I knew I wasn't just talking to myself. I had imaginary friends. Well, I guess I could say they were more like imaginary enemies, because their intentions were always bad. These voices used to torment me, but as I got older, I learned how to block them out. I became good at ignoring them. I learned to live my life like they weren't there. But sometimes the voices would come back, and that's what was happening to me now. I knew that if the voices took control of me, they would ruin my life. They would make me do things that I didn't want to do, things that I couldn't undo. I tried to scream, but no sound came out of my mouth. I tried to run away, but my legs wouldn't move. I tried to fight, to claw my way out of whatever prison the voices had locked me in, but it was no use. They were too strong. Derek came outside to look for me and found me on the ground, writhing in pain. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. His voice sounded muffled like under a blanket. I tried to answer, but all that came out was a strangled squeak. He knelt beside me, his brow furrowed in concern. "What's wrong? Do you need help?" I wanted to tell him, "Run," but all that came out was run. He looked at me for a moment, then stood up. "Weird," he muttered. Then he went back inside without a second glance. I felt helpless. As the minutes ticked by, I struggled to free myself from whatever dark magic had bound me to the spot. The voices whispered in my ear, "It's no use. You can't escape us. Give up now, and we won't hurt you." Their voices were like nails on a chalkboard. They grated against my nerves. Then I remembered the necklace that my dad had given me for my birthday. It was hidden in my dresser at home, focused all my energy, and screamed silently in my mind. Necklace. A few seconds later, my hand brushed against something cold and smooth. I grabbed it. It was my necklace. I clutched it tightly in my fist. Suddenly, a surge of power shot through me. The voices screamed in anger. "No, don't do that. Don't use the stone. If you use the stone, we will take over completely. You won't be able to stop us." I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't care if they took over completely. I was done with running. I was done with hiding. I was tired of being afraid of them. Now, if they were going to destroy my life, then so be it. Let them do it. But before they could, a new voice rang out inside of me. It was my dad's voice. "Hey, it's me. Sorry I'm late, sweetheart. Mom and I got caught up watching Judge Judy, and then she made me run to the store for more wine. She says she needs it for a painting project, but I think she just wants an excuse to drink on a school night. Anyway, I'm here now, so let's go home, okay?" He was trying to be funny, and it actually worked. I couldn't help but smile. Then I looked down at my hands. They weren't mine. They belonged to my dad. I looked up at Derek, who was kneeling beside me with tears streaming down his face. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," he cried. "I should have known." "Yeah. Your dad was supposed to pick you up, and I told him I was going to bring you home. I'm sorry. "It's okay," I told him, reaching out to touch his arm. "Really, it's fine." That's when I heard my dad clear his throat awkwardly behind me. Hey, Dee," he said. "Sorry to interrupt, but does my daughter have a car or something here?" I turned to look at him, confusion written on my face. "Dad, I think we have to talk."